fight fans, UFC 283 is just around the corner, and it is a action-packed stacked card. Guys, I cannot wait. It's over there in Brazil. This is UFC's first pay-per-view, and here we are. Here we go. You got Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. Glover Teixeira never disappoints you in an action-packed fight. Glover Teixeira, we already know he's coming off that Fight of the Year candidate. In my eyes, it was definitely Fight of the Year against Yuri Prochazka, excuse me if I'm saying that last name wrong, but one hell of a fight that was. It was one hell of a fight. And he's also coming off an impressive year as well. I believe I'm not sure if it was, you know what, it might have been the prior year. He won the light heavyweight championship over Jan Blachowicz back in 2021. So, he is coming off of quite a few performances. He's gotten up there. I believe he's like 43, 42. Not 100% sure on the age, but I know it's up there. But, he's just continued to look more impressive as the years go on and such. He ended up having another victory along the lines with the Thiago Santos. But his last fight was against Yuri Prochazka. That was back in June of 2022. So he is now fighting Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is coming off a KO performance of the year against Johnny Walker. And then he had another finish over Thiago Santos. So, he got Jamal Hill, who's, he again himself is not in any boring fights himself. He does have a loss to Paul Craig, who is on this UFC 283 card as well. I believe he is fighting Johnny Walker, but we'll talk about that a little later. But with that being said, Jamal Hill has already majority of his fights are ending in knockout. So you already know these guys are going to come to bang. These guys are going to come to brawl. And I'm very much looking forward to this main event. It's not going to disappoint you. What's going to go down? How's it going to happen? Well, here's what I feel. I feel if it goes to the ground, that's it. That's it. The fight's going to be done. Glover Teixeira is second to none. He is literally first class, all like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He is trained with the likes of Nogueiras. I'm sure he's been around guys like Shogun, and just, he's had just the who's who when it comes to Brazilian jiu-jitsu around him all his life. He's actually a former training partner of Chuck Liddell. Back in the earlier days, he was was founded by Chuck Liddell's training partner, trainer, Chuck Liddell's head trainer, and they both started training with each other, him and Chuck Liddell, Glover Teixeira, and that's how long it's been for him. And I believe Chuck Liddell's coach, head trainer, is in Glover Teixeira's corner and has been since the very beginning of Glover Teixeira's career. So it's going to be a very, very heavy slugfest fight, I guess you could say. It's a very heavy striking fight. Jamal Hill really needs to do his best to keep on the standing, because I do feel like he does have that power to knock out Glover Teixeira. But if he can that's only if he can keep it standing. If he somehow gets on the ground, you already saw what he was able to do to Jan Blachowicz. He was able to submit him with ease. It was still a little bit of a difficult fight, but still, nonetheless, Glover Teixeira got that win. So that's my best guess. What I feel like is going to happen, who's going to win, I want to give the edge more to Glover, because Glover has the experience. He's been in the big fights before. He's been on the big stage before. He has been, around the game. Like I said, he's helped Chuck Liddell in the earlier days. So this guy is no stranger to the big time. This is Jamal Hill's first title fight. This is the first time headlining a pay-per-view. So it's going to be a lot of eyes on him. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Maybe he will come through. Maybe he won't. Who knows? But this is the first time for him. So I would give the odds a little bit more to Glover with that being said. Co-main event, you got yourself Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, part 4. 4. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but part 4. These guys first met up back in 2021 in December. It ended up into being a draw. Then I believe they fought again back in June of 2021. No, excuse me. No, you know what? 2020 is when they fought. Excuse me. 2020 December is when they fought. Led to a draw. 2021 of June of 2021 is when they fought again, part 2. And that one where Brandon Moreno got him into I believe it was a rear naked submission. It was a real naked submission. He was able to get that victory. Then in January of 2022, that's when we have the unanimous decision over with Deiveson Figueiredo getting the nod, who is now the champion. They were scheduled to fight, I believe it was in July, and I believe that Deiveson Figueiredo was hurt. I believe he was hurt, and he wasn't able to really go fulfill through that fight. So they had an interim title fight with Kai Kara France, Brandon Moreno, and he got the victory over that. So right now you got the interim champion Brandon Moreno versus the undisputed champion Deiveson Figueiredo for a part 4. Now, how this fight is going to go, oh man, this is really hard to tell, guys. This is really, really hard to tell because these guys know each other so well. I mean, the past 3 years, these guys pretty much have only fought each other. Deiveson Figueiredo has not fought since that third fight between them two, since January 2022. So he's been out for a whole year. It's been quite a while with Brandon Moreno being a little bit more fresher. But it's going to be very tricky, very, very tricky, not just because of how well they know each other, but because on the outside shenanigans that's been going on as well. Unfortunately, Brandon Moreno, his head coach is no longer with them. He's no longer with the head coach because he's a part of that whole gambling scandal. I'm talking about James Krause. There's a whole, if you guys been looking into the MMA community, been looking around the MMA news, you've been knowing that James Krause is into some deep waters regarding this whole gambling situation. Don't know enough details to comment on that, but that's Brandon Moreno had to pretty much change camps midway through camp. So now we just don't know how Brandon Moreno is going to react to this. We don't know how he's going to act to the new camp. I know he's over there, I believe, in Dallas, I want to say. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that one. But yeah, he could be, this could affect him. You never know. It could affect him, but then again, it could not. Maybe it could be to his advantage. Maybe he knows Deiveson Figueiredo so very well that it's just not going to bother him. He's already been in there with him 3 times. So that could, you never know with that being said. But with Deiveson Figueiredo, him being out for a whole year, that could give him a little ring rust there, or it could help him and recuperate all the injuries that he's had within those 3 fights. So it's definitely hard to tell. Who I would give the edge to, I want to say I would give it a little bit more towards Brandon Moreno, because Brandon Moreno is just, he's a dog. He goes in there and fight. He does not run around. He does not back up. He will come in there, and it feels like he has more of the power to really stumble you and really keep you guessing. That unanimous decision fight with part 3 that they had, a lot of people even thought that maybe Brandon Moreno may have edged that one out. So it wasn't like a super one-sided defeat for Deiveson Figueiredo, but it was actually a lot closer than what people were actually leading to believe. So that one's actually going to be a very fun fight, very highly anticipated. Don't miss that one, guys. The co-main event, I guess you could say, is Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns is coming off that crazy loss to Khamzat Chimaev back in last year. I want to say that was in April of 2022. Don't quote me on that one, but I don't remember the date, but I do remember the fight. That fight was one hell of a fight, guys. One hell of a fight. I mean, these guys were going back and forth. Khamzat Chimaev was this Terminator, this walking destruction, who was just dominating everybody in the opening bell, not even making it last a minute. But then Gilbert Burns comes around, and then these guys go 3 rounds of war, swinging back and forth. These guys are literally throwing bombs at each other. He even hurt Khamzat Chimaev, knocking Khamzat Chimaev down. It was one hell of a war. I honestly wish that was a 5-round fight, so we could have seen more of that. But unfortunately, it was only 3 rounds, and Khamzat Chimaev got that win. But Gilbert Burns is no punk to big fights either, or high competitors, because he was recently in there with also the likes of Thompson, Wonderboy Thompson, and then he was also went for a welterweight title shot against Kamaru Usman, and then of course he beat the then champion Tyron Woodley. So he's been in there with the big fights and big fighters, and he's been in the big spotlight like he was with Kamaru Usman. That was back in, I want to say, February 2021, I want to say. So yeah, those guys, Gilbert Burns is definitely one hell of a tough fighter. Now you got Neil Magny. He himself is just like, man, it's hard to predict a Neil Magny fight, because Neil Magny, he goes in there and he dominates some of these crazy fighters, like a Johnny Hendricks, like a Hector Lombard, like a Kelvin Gastelum, and then but then he goes and loses to some guys, some other big fighters like a Rafael dos Anjos or a Michael Chiesa. Or Santiago Ponzinibbio. So, it's really hard to see what kind of Neil Magny you get, but he is tough. He is very, very tough. He is no walk in the park for anybody. anybody. I believe he has the most wins in welterweight history, if I'm correct on that one. So this one's going to be a very tough fight. I would give the edge to Gilbert Burns, though. I feel like with his striking, with his power, with his size, he will give Neil Magny some problems. Neil Magny is no stranger though to big fighters. Like I said, he went in there against guys like Hector Lombard and Johnny Hendricks, who were really, really huge for their welterweight class, and actually fought at middleweight at one time. So Gilbert Burns, I feel like that would, but I do feel like Gilbert Burns with his ground game, with this striking power that he does carry, I do feel like he does just have the slight edge over Neil Magny. But don't sleep on Neil. Don't sleep on Neil. Again, very tough fight. It's one hell of a fight card, guys. You still got Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker on there. That those guys are like, right now the light heavyweight division is on fire right now. These guys are trying to possibly fight for a possible number one contendership. You got Anthony Smith, who is possibly the backup fighter for Jamal Hill and Glover Teixeira. So we already know what happened there. Last month we had Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev, that fight that led to a draw. So now we got the undisputed championship on the line. So we also need ourselves a number one contender. So this could possibly be that number one contender fight with Paul Craig already beating Jamal Hill. So yeah, and both of the and Jamal Hill already knocking out Johnny Walker. So yeah, it's definitely crazy, definitely interesting to see what's going to happen within these fights. So guys, definitely don't miss out. UFC 283 tomorrow, Saturday in Brazil. It's going to be one hell of a fight night, guys. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.